No,
What
no,
do
it's
you
true.
mean?
No, no, it's true. It's true.
I live for the
No,
pain.
no,
I
it's
just
very much true.
okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you said. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the Welcome to the Middle of Podcast. This is a podcast about the journey of life, ups, the downs, and everything in between. And I am your host, Mako Mborero Kadziani K, or just Mako for short. And welcome to another episode in our relationship series. Today we are talking about friendship, heartbreak, heartache, figuring your way forward, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, my name is Mako Mborero Kadzianike. You can follow me on Instagram at Mako_Cads. Please do make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram and on Facebook at T Middle O Podcast. That is T Middle O Podcast. And if you're watching, please make sure to leave a like, comment if you have something you want to comment, and you want to contribute as well. Share with your friends, your aunts, your uncles, your sekuru, your grandmother, anyone and everyone really. And also, if you're listening, love our listeners, please do make sure to leave a 5-star rating, be it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Overcast, wherever you are streaming from. And thank you very much for tuning in today. And I have a guest with me who I have known for a mighty long time. Mighty long time. Since grade 1.
Yeah.
Which means like since I was 6. Yo. Ha ha ha.
It's been a
Yo.
while. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. And yeah, we're gonna be talking a bit about, like I said, friendship, heartache, heartbreak, the highs and lows, losing friends, and so on and so forth. I think no relationship series is ever complete because I think so far we've been talking about how make this friend, make that friend, this relationship, that relationship, siblings, parents, older and younger, the whole 9 yards. But I think no, we can't have a a series about relationships without talking about losing some relationships.
Yeah.
But that being said. Who are you, ma'am?
Hi everybody. My name is Munashe
Mhm.
Mataranika, and I think my only credential here is I'm Mako's friend.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't
here
know.
as Mako's friend.
Are you sharing your socials or you not? I don't know how you feel about that.
You
Okay,
know-
maybe not, guys. Sorry.
Maybe not.
We'll see. Maybe next
Um,
time.
Maybe next time.
But she sings.
Lovely to meet y'all.
She sings very well. Actually, I might just put a link to your singing page on Instagram.
Yeah. You can
Yeah.
do that.
Do you know what it's called?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
It is at Muimbi. MUIMBI.
Okay. All right. Cool. I think we'll put a link down in the description. Yeah. And as you go along, please do make sure to share some of your experiences, some of the questions and things that we'll be talking about. Even if you don't talk about them, but you want to share some of the stuff you've been through, please feel free. In fact, I'd love it if you did that. It would really add to the conversation. So, Mako's friend Munashe.
That's me.
Hello. Tell us a bit about yourself. What are you currently doing? What's going on in life? How's that going?
Okay, I am a recent master's graduate.
What did you study?
I studied international
Wait.
policy at Stanford.
Hey!
Marco.
That's what I wanted to have.
I know.
No, I'm playing. Okay, cool. How is that?
It was interesting. You learn a lot of things when you're in a new place.
Stan Feezy.
Yes.
But like I mean I know for your undergrad you didn't go to an Ivy League school,
No.
but you did for your masters.
Yes.
I think we'll get into that just now, but it'll be interesting to hear how it was different. You know how in different settings and different surroundings, it's different making relationships in those areas, right? And also, it's different in different cities and towns and states and stuff.
Yeah.
But even in the specific school, there are differences as well, right? So we'll get into that just now, but I also just do want to say that what's your family background like? What's the setup there as well? Because I think that then feeds into how we handle all other relations we have in life, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
So I'm an eldest African daughter.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm the first of five,
Uh-huh.
raised by both my parents.
Okay.
And so I think just like my family background is that typical African family, firstborn
What's that?
daughter. A lot of expectations, a lot of responsibility. I've grown up with like I was that person where everyone would say, "Oh, you're so mature for your age. You know, you can talk to any age group." I had these two ladies I rode a bus with once, and they were like, "Wow, you can have a conversation. You can hold a conversation with people that are older than you." I'm like, "Yes, I've had to for most of my life." Yeah, so I think that's the kind of background I come with, and I think in recent years I've tried to like lean into my childhood a little bit more,
Okay.
just because I feel like I didn't quite have that when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like I've been 25 for 10 years. And so
Since you're 15, you've been 25.
I've been 25. Yo guys, I deserve a break. And so I think in a lot of my relationships of late, like in the last couple of years, I've been just leaning into being taken care of, you know, instead of like being the one who's
taking
care of everyone.
Okay.
You know.
Right.
And I think maybe we'll get into that, but that's one of the differences I experienced with the type of friendships I made in my undergrad and in my master's.
Okay, cool. No, let's get into it now. I mean, like, what was the difference between your master's and undergrad, like where you were first and then next, and making friends and the whole 9 yards?
I think the main difference is the time.
Okay.
Right? So I was in my undergrad for 4 years.
Okay.
And so that means the people that were ahead of me, my seniors, the friends that I made that were older than me, all graduated bit by bit, right? And so the longer I stayed, the more I was making friends that were younger than me as well. And so I really leaned into like my big sister
bag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was deep within that bag. Like I even have some of my friends right now are friends that I made when I was an undergrad and they're younger than me, right? So I was really into that, in that zone and taking care of people. Even with my friends that were like the same age as me, I was the responsible one, you know, the one saying, "No, let's not stay up until 5 a.m.
They're like, no.
Off campus. No.
Let's not do that.
Go home.
Yeah.
You know?
They're like, oh, she's boring.
She's very... No, I really was. I was the boring one. For a while. I mean, I had other stints, you know? But for the most part, I was the responsible one. I was the, let's go to church one. I was the, you know, we start school tomorrow. Maybe let's not go out tonight one. And I think part of it is because of that thing where I'm like, I've been used to being the responsible one. Yeah. So that's what I think is a big difference, like the time. Whereas in my master's, I was there for 2 years. The only generations that I experienced were like the ones that were there before me, so the year above me and the year beneath me. But then again, it's grad school, and a lot of people are going to be older than you. A lot of people in their masters are older than you. They have more experience than you. Even if they are in the year behind you, they're more experienced, older than you. And so I found myself asking a lot more questions, leaning into like, I genuinely don't know. Do you know? So help me. Okay. You know, and yeah, I think because masters is just a very different ball game altogether. You know, it's not the college life. We're partying, we're having fun. These are the best years of our lives. No, it's a different ball game. You're dealing with people that have already gone to work. You know,
with children and
we have children. Like my friends, were getting married, having babies, and I'm like, that's great. I'm nowhere near that, but but that's great. So yeah, I think that was something that was very different. I had to learn how to make friends with older people. I had to make, in a different capacity, you know. I had to learn how to make friends with people who were already working, who already had careers, and to get help from those people, which is a different dynamic than in undergrad when we're all just figuring things out. And I have more experience because I've been here for 2 years.
Okay, all right. No, that's cool. That's interesting. And I think I think that it brings us on to the opposite side of the scale, right? Where I think because you then learn, it seems like you're pretty good at making friends. I mean, I remember last year you were in Zim for like what, 3 months or so.
Yeah.
Anyway, you took this girl. She would live with her friend. You're like, yo,
Do you know what's actually funny is
okay.
that I don't typically make friends.
But look, you
Easily.
flourished last year. Last year
I
you were in your
did.
bag.
Thanks to you.
Ah,
I feel like you were master friend
Sidekiki. Yeah.
facilitator.
Hey, I know. I know. I'm ready department here.
Yeah.
I mean, that was our department. No, that's good. Sorry, I've got like something in my eye.
No.
But
you
no,
take your time.
I definitely hear you. Especially in talking about how, you then make friends and it's nice to make friends. But also there's the opposite end of the scale where it's not necessarily nice to lose friends either.
No.
And how would you describe the emotion or the feeling that you have post or during losing friends? Like, what are some of the things that you feel?
Friend, the last time I lost a friend,
Mm.
I went into just straight depression.
Wow.
Just
Okay.
into the depths.
Right? Among
trenches.
it. Among it,
I
in
was
between.
within.
Yeah.
No, it was tough.
Mm.
It was tough. And I think I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation because we don't talk about this enough as a society. We don't talk about friendship heartbreak as much as we should.
I would even argue and say that friendship heartbreak is worse than relationship heartbreak.
I agree.
I don't know if you agree. Please comment in the comment section and say I agree. If you do, what do you think is worse? Friendship breakups or like Mjolo love breakups? What do you think is worse?
So, in my personal humble opinion. I would argue that friendship breakups are harder because, with friends, there is rarely a filter, especially if it's someone who has become a best friend or someone you do everything with, you go everywhere with. There rarely is a barrier or a mask or a filter between you two.
Yeah.
And so in some cases, or in some instances, you feel like this person should know me the best. They should know me the most.
So therefore, they should understand.
They should understand me the most. They should know my heart the most. They should know my intentions the most. They should know. They should see me the most, the best, right? And so when someone like that ends up not seeing you the way that you thought they would see you, not understanding you the way you wanted to be understood.
That's deep, because
and then
is that side of
it makes you think, so am I really that bad of a person if the closest person to me thinks this way about me? And that is how my depression started. Because then I asked myself, so if the closest person here, this particular breakup I'm referring to, she was my best friend in undergrad. We had spent 3 years of undergrad together. We did everything together. I'm talking joint at the hip. Like, people saw me, they saw
where's
her.
Munashe?
Exactly.
So Ningi's there as well.
And you know what the worst part was? That phase when we weren't talking, but people didn't know we weren't talking, was the most excruciating.
Because they just
then they'll come
assume.
to me and say, so where is this person?
And you're like,
and
I
I'm
don't know.
like, now I understand why Anonzani Kane was like, Am I my brother's keeper? Why are you asking
You think?
me?
Do I look like Abel to you?
Do I look like
Abel?
Do I look like I have their location on me?
Like I would find my Abel on my phone. No, Abel. Hey.
I understood.
Okay.
Because people would then come to me and expect me to know exactly where she is, why she's not where I am, what's going on. They can't reach her, so you tell her. And
you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm definitely not doing that.
And the worst part is we lived right next to each other. I know, because at the time when we were friends, it was a great idea, right? It was a great idea. So when I was going home, she was going home. And
you bump into them.
They bump. I bump into them. If they have friends over in their apartment, American walls are not built like with concrete, so I can hear, oh, so you've got friends? Oh, so you're doing okay? Oh, so you're having fun?
So I'm the only one who's struggling.
Oh, so it's just me? Oh, okay.
Same,
Oh,
same, 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 same. I'll say
oh.
less, say less, say less, say less. Yeah, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
tough. Yeah, and so
Uh,
I feel like, especially if the breakup is like, and you guys don't end on good terms, and words are exchanged that really hurt. I
mm-hmm.
think for me that was the biggest thing. It was
Okay.
like, after 3 years, how are you saying this about me?
Mm.
How is it that when you look at me, this is what you see?
So do you think so you say that words are exchanged and this is said about you. Um so what was the more painful thing for you, having someone say those things or them leaving?
Mm.
Because I mean, for example, if someone then leaves, it's like, they left. But if they left and the words didn't, like the words were like, hey, listen, for example, it's been nice being friends, but I can't continue this friendship.
Yeah.
But if words are exchanged, also like, yeah, which one's worse?
I feel like that will depend on the kind of person that you are.
Mm-hmm.
My love language is words of affirmation,
Mm.
but that also means the quickest way to destroy me is through words, because I really value the words people say, and I think the words you say are indicative of your true feelings. So for me, when you tell me that you appreciate me as a friend and that you're here for me, I take that.
And you're like, you best be there,
You
bro.
best
You
be there.
said
So when I call
I
you
call you at 2 a.m.
at 2
You said
a.m.,
anytime.
anytime.
So anytime
So
is
why is this
now.
now? It's
Yeah.
now.
It's
It's
anytime.
right
It's quarter past
now.
anytime.
It's,
Quarter
it's right
past.
now.
Yeah.
So be here.
Not quarter to.
Mm-mm.
Because it's now. Yeah.
It's already.
O'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take that. So when you tell me, which is why I don't like ambiguous things, and Marco loves to keep me in the gray. But this
But
is
that's
why.
me because I think part of that is because I know. So it's just me like, yeah.
Because I will take it. As you said it. And I don't know if it's because I am a Christian and I've learned to trust
No,
God
but
at His
but
words.
to be fair, for the most part, I will say in
Yeah,
specifics,
I
unless
know.
I'm like,
I know.
well,
I know.
well.
I'm just
No, I hear you.
teasing.
No, I hear
Yeah.
you.
And
Yeah.
so I think for me, because words actually do matter to me, the things that they said about me to me mattered more than
Than
whether
the
or not.
separation.
Yes.
So I'd even go as far as I think it depends on the person in general. Because, for example, for me, I believe my top two love languages are like, I really like quality time. I really value quality time.
Yeah.
And if you see that I'm close to you, physical touch, but I know people are like, oh, physical touch. For me, it's physical touch is more like, if I like you, like, I'll be like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, like I just like being in your space, if that makes sense. Maybe that's more my physical quality time and physical touch side. It's not necessarily actually touching someone, if that
And I
makes sense.
think that's
It's
actually
more
what
being in your
physical touch
space.
is. People
Yeah.
tend to make it like
It
weird.
sounds, yeah, it sounds like,
But that's not weird.
No, it's like, I'll see you and I'll be like,
I want
hey.
exactly.
Oh, be laughing, I'll be like,
Exactly. I want to make
no.
contact with you.
Yeah.
Not in a weird way.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
I'm gonna see you, I'm gonna hug you.
So part of that is like, but I still find that I think it also depends on what people value as well. Because for example, for me, I'm similar to you where I think it's all good and fine, and people can say words, but when there's certain things that okay, let me put it this way. I think for me, I'm one of those people who doesn't forget what you say.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Which is tough.
I will quote you word
And
for word.
I will remember. Just because I didn't quote you, don't think I forgot it.
Me, I will.
And I
Me, I
remember.
will
And the
quote.
thing about me is I remember the time that it was said. I remember the
remember where you
place.
were,
I remember where
what
the
you were
sun was. I
wearing,
remember which
how I
car.
was
I can
sitting.
even maybe I'll forget the make of the car, but I'll know it was a blue 4x4 that went by as you were speaking. And someone, I think people like us, unfortunately, it makes the process of healing a fair bit difficult. But we'll get to healing in a bit because that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But it does make the healing process difficult because the words ring in your head and they ring. And anytime you hear someone bypass, for example, when someone says character, they'll be like, oh yeah, I was talking about someone's character and what I think, and immediately you're like, Ah,
a
and
real
you think
swing.
about that time, and you're like, I bet.
And I also think not only does it make healing difficult, I think it also makes forgiveness difficult sometimes.
I tukushika, tukushika,
Okay.
tukushika.
Ndamanya.
No, we'll get there.
Okay,
We'll get
okay,
there.
okay.
No, but the reason that I bring it up is because I think what then makes the heartbreak difficult, like you said, is different things.
Mm,
So for someone like you, for example, you said is words, right? For
mm.
me, it's also words, but for others, it's also the what makes it difficult is community,
Yeah.
right? So for example, I'm sure for you when you were um in your thin walls. I know Kendrick Lamar like say that walls can talk.
Yeah.
Or rather, he says if walls could talk, but technically they do because they are quite thin. I'm sure it would be difficult to hear like the voice of some of your friends being in that apartment. You're like, oh,
Do you know what the
and
worst is? The
mm,
worst thing was and is when you share a community.
mm,
Because in as much as I don't want to put the rest of my friends in a position where they have to pick a side,
mm,
it also makes me feel weird
mm,
that they can see my pain
mm,
and still be friends with this person.
mm,
Not that I don't want them to be. Like,
mm.
please, don't get me wrong. I support your friendship.
In
Please
fact, go forth
go
and
forth
prosper.
and go ye therefore and
Eh, and
flourish.
flourish. Be fruitful.
But it
Mm,
also it just hurts a little bit,
mm,
right? Because I am grieving this friendship, but it also means I can't be in the same spaces with the other people that I love if this one person is there.
mm,
Especially in that time where I'm still healing, I'm still processing
recovering and
and
yeah.
I'm still figuring out. I'll give you an example of like so when this breakup happened, this was COVID, right? So we're all in lockdown, we're all on campus, and
You're
it's the
already
same.
lonely as it
You're
is.
already
COVID was
lonely as
tough,
it
bruh.
is,
COVID
right?
was tough.
And so now we're all on campus, we're in the same apartment complex, right? And we're hanging out with the same people because also want to keep the circle small, tight, right? And it's simple things like I want to have a game night with my friends, but now I can't be myself if I know that this person is coming. Now suddenly I am hyperventilating because I'm like, this person is coming, it's gonna be awkward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the worst is when they look like they're doing better than you. They look like they're fine. They're having a blast, they're having a good time. And I don't know, I just feel like you feel robbed of community in those types of moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a fair point, the whole community part. And also I think it also comes down to how you deal with the situation as well. I mean, like, yeah, we did say we're gonna talk healing, but I think they do kind of go hand in hand because I think part of them going through friendship heartache is accepting that's the situation.
Yeah.
So maybe before we even touch on the healing element, um, for you, did you have a moment where you felt like, um, I mean, I don't want to go into specifics, and I'm not gonna ask names or anything, but um, with whatever went on with you, was there, I don't know, was it that someone wronged someone else, or it was just like a head button? Because when it comes to breakups, I mean, and friendships, split ups and stuff, they tend to be, I think, three or four main things. One of them is, or people grow. So the reason why people stop being friends a lot of times, one, people just grow apart.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, it's nothing. There's no mentioned thing. There's nothing said. You just grow apart. But if you had to bump into them, you can still be like, "Hey, what's up? What's good?" You
Yeah.
won't act like you don't know each other,
Yeah.
but you're just not as close as you used to be. So
As
people
you used
sometimes
to,
just grow
yeah.
apart, and that I think that happens with everyone, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, some friends for a season, it's a seasonal friendship, and like those ones, especially, are the ones where you tend to just grow apart. It's nothing personal. Um, then you have situations where you have an argument, right? And that argument blows out of proportion and there's a breakup there.
Yeah.
Then there's one where one wrongs the other, right? It's just like a romantic relationship, how some people grow apart. And then you've got situations where
You did something.
you have an argument, blows out of proportion, then one where the other does something, right? So again, like in the situation, can then have one where one does something to the other.
Yeah.
And how you then handle that is then will determine if it ends in heartbreak or
Break.
separation or you continue together. Those are three. And then I also think that the other one that then takes place is like, you said What's the fourth one that I was thinking of? Arguments, one against the other, creating party. Yeah, I think I guess I'll say they're typically three. We're not boxing into three, but they're typically three main reasons why people
Yeah.
stop being friends or not as close as they used to be.
Yeah.
For you, I don't know, where do you fall?
See, okay, so I'll tell you what I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll try to figure out where it fits in the three, or if we should add a fourth category.
Okay.
But I think what happened between us was a lack of like psychological safety
Okay.
and trust. Really, I think it was, and because we both perceived what was wrong in the friendship from different perspectives. They thought, because we were on a project together,
Mm-hmm.
and they thought we didn't work well in the project together, and so the arguments we had in the project blew out of
Into
control.
the friendship.
And yes, and
Okay.
into the friendship, and that then affected the friendship.
Okay.
My perspective was we already had cracks in our friendship,
Okay.
and us working together just made it worse.
Okay.
So, and when I took time to look back at it, because some of the things that they said about me were things that I felt like were influenced by their perspective of their other friendships in general.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things was that they had this fear that a lot of their friends weren't genuine,
Okay.
or there for them sincerely. And so they said to me that I was two-faced, or that I was different people.
Okay.
To them and to other people. Whereas to me, that's not because I am two-faced. It's because I have an outside personality and I have an inside personality, and a lot of that is because of the way I was raised. Right? I feel safer with the people that I'm closest to, and so I'm less energetic. I'm less of like the hype woman. But when I'm outside, I'm like your hype girl.
Yes.
I am the yes, girl, yes, slay. You know what I mean? Literally, like when I'm out there with like general acquaintances and friends and other people that like.
It's not that you're being fake. You're just showing another side of yourself.
Exactly, okay. And when I'm in like a space that I think is safe, or like is comfortable for me, I am more quiet. I am more vulnerable.
So you heard that if she's loud and in your face around you, she probably doesn't like you.
Okay, that's not. That's not
oh, that's what you're saying? No?
That's not.
Oh, I misinterpreted that. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Oh, my bad. I guess she still likes you. I don't know.
Kinda.
No, but I hear you. I hear where you're coming from.
So I think because they were looking at it from the perspective of, oh, I have had a lot of friends that were disingenuous with me.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she has these different like ways of expressing herself means she's not being genuine with me. Whereas for me, it was like, no, that's actually a sign that I'm comfortable around you, you know?
Okay.
I don't have to be in my like high tension self
all the time.
All the time. With
I can
you.
show you what I am like
when
I'm tired.
Super chill. Yeah, like I'm super chill, vulnerable, but I will always show up for, always like encourage you, and like when we're outside.
So I guess we can somewhat say that you wronged, or they may feel like you wronged them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe that's what it was.
But I guess you said they already cracked some of that sort of thing. But maybe more so to then say, fine, you guys have a conversation, right? And things like, because you said they blew out of proportion and whatnot. I guess you did have a conversation because you said words were exchanged and whatnot. Yeah. So just like any situation, you have the heartbreak. I want to quickly say that I think heartbreak can even happen when you grow apart.
Yeah.
And nothing was said.
Yeah.
I've had situations where you grow apart from a friend. Nothing was said. There's no ill intention, or there's nothing bad that we can say happened. You just grew apart. That in itself can hurt as well.
Yeah.
Because you look back fondly on memories, and you're like, oh, that was nice. I wish we were there, but you can recognize that we're not there now.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is like, I think when you grow apart, that's typically down to a seasonal thing. And the reason I say that is because just like any season, ice will melt and will come, right? So you can't then say, oh, it was forced. It wasn't forced. It's just that the sun came back and it got warmer. So therefore the ice went. Whereas let's say you are in the snow and you take like, like an axe or something, you literally cut down, then that's typically like your arguments and your wronging of each
Yeah.
other. But just like growing apart, I think when you grow apart from people as well, that can bring its own different hurts as well. Excuse me, because you understand that the season is over. Sorry,
Okay.
and you can't go back and rescue the season. So right now we're entering summer, or rather summer now, and you can't exactly say, "Oh, I wish it was cold again." You can wish, but you can't go back into
Can't get
winter.
that moment.
You can't
Right.
relive
Yeah.
2023 winter because it's
Yeah.
happened. And I think that's then that in itself brings a different, because I guess the nature of the relationship changes. So part of the healing is understanding that the nature
We're
has
different now.
changed. We're different, and yes, maybe we won't see each other every day, for example, but we're okay.
We're okay. I would also actually add on that seasonal thing,
Mm-hmm.
the whole growing apart thing, that sometimes it's not that you're growing apart at the same rate. Other times it's that you're outgrowing each other.
That's true.
So maybe I used to love the winter, and nothing's changed about the winter, but I just don't like winter anymore.
I'm with you.
I've
Outgrown it.
I've outgrown.
I'm with you. I
winter.
think I have gone through that, but maybe more so, but not as I've gone through that, but it's also just weird to figure out what to do in those spaces.
Yeah.
Because I think now obviously we're going to be talking about as we like how we
As we
advance
go.
from there.
Yeah.
But I definitely had a situation where I was close to some like two or three friends, and like we were really close, right? Like we were really close. I mean now even if I see them, I'll hit them up. We'll talk and
Chill.
well we haven't hung out, but
You will.
I mean we can,
Yeah, you
we
can.
still can,
Yeah.
yeah, like.
Yeah.
But it's mostly like if we bump into each other, let's say like at the shops, we'll like have a whole exchange, a conversation. You hear, for example, I mean, Sim is generally small, and some of my circles are on the smaller end. But you hear someone say, "Oh, I know Ninki." You're like, "Oh, really?" You're like, "Oh, we used to be friends." Like, why do you stop? It's like, no, like we just be like, "No, we're cool." Like, we're not. It's just we're not as close anymore. But those situations are ones where, let's say, you've outgrown someone, and you realize that, okay, fine. In order for me to become the person that I want to be, I can't be that person with them around. And you also have situations where you are the one who someone's outgrown.
Yeah.
And that can also hurt
And
because you
that's
think to yourself
fine.
like, what? But that also
For me, I'm great.
happens.
I'm fantastic.
Yeah, and we're all growing. It's just one is
Yeah.
growing at times 5, you're growing at times 2.
And maybe we're
And
going
that's
different
okay.
directions also. So like maybe we're all growing at times 5, but you're
In different
going
ways.
in the
You're going
in
there,
a
I'm
northeasterly
going there.
direction. I am going in
In
the northwestern.
northwesternly direction. And also, I mean, I know I've had conversations with some people who they grow apart as friends because, for example, one then becomes a serious and committed Christian, right? And you find that the other friends were like, now you've got different values and principles and guidelines. And you find the other friend then says things like, oh, but like, and then you have to find a way of communicating that because you don't want to ghost people,
Yeah.
but also you don't want to seem holier than thou,
And
and
that's
that
the
makes it
difficult
challenging
balance,
as well.
Yeah. Because also one thing that I've had to come to terms with is not everyone is going to understand you, and not everyone is going to understand your intention.
Yeah.
So even if you try to find that happy balance, that happy medium between not trying to sound holier than thou and not trying to ghost you, you could tailor it, polish it,
But still,
snip it to
it reminds me of the game 30 Seconds, right?
Mm.
Where one of my
Of
all-time
course,
favorite
of
games
course.
because I'm so good at it.
Of-
Not
of-
to brag, not to brag,
Lord save us.
not to brag, but I'm just saying, if you guys want to play a game, let me know. Invite me, and we'll do like a little, and I'll show you how to win.
You will. Okay. Yes.
I will
go ahead.
embarrass you. I'll
I was
embarrass
going to say you will cry.
you.
Tears. Cha-cha-moi.
No. But just like 30 seconds, the whole point of 30 seconds is you may know 30 seconds is a game. If you don't know it, I'll highly encourage you to Google and like read on it. But essentially it's like charades, but it's not charades. It's a
Yeah.
game where you've got 5 words on a piece of paper, like on a card rather, and you've got 30 seconds to make those in your team guess the word, but you can't say the word. So if the word is like chair, you have to say, what do you sit on in class? And someone says a chair, and you're like, yeah. Or if someone says, what do you sit on? Then they go a bench. You're like, no, the other thing. and they'll be like a
In a
chair.
class,
Yeah, in a
yeah.
class, and they'll be like, oh, chair, for example. But the whole point is how you then interpret it is different, right? So, for example, for me, if you ask me, what do you sit on? Because I sit on a bench at home or at school. When you say, what do you sit on? I will say a bench. But if I describe to you and say, what's that thing that you sit on that you don't normally sit on at home? Then your word is chair. So do you get what I'm saying? So even when you're communicating to people, one thing I've been learning a lot lately in life is communication is not about what you say or how you say it. It's about understanding the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to speak in a manner that they understand.
Yeah.
So if you understand what you're saying, great, but they need to get it too. You know?
Yeah. And I also think, just like a little addendum at the end, I'll also say that while that is true, communication is very much about making sure that the person you're speaking to understands, and you use references that they know. So for example, if you want to give a reference about Jennifer Hudson, if you say the color purple, some people might know that. They might not know that.
I wouldn't know that.
You wouldn't know that. But if you say she's got a really big voice and she's an African American, really great singer,
then some people might get it.
Some people might get
or
it.
for others, they won't. Then you have to say, what's that river that the plane landed in America?
Exactly.
Hudson River. Aniston, the first name, Jennifer. Put that one and that one together, Jennifer Hudson.
So sometimes it is about knowing the context of your person and like the references that they understand.
And sometimes you have to be, I'm realizing now as well with the whole heartbreak or friendship separation is, if you are looking to have some sort of consolation or reconciliation or whatever, it also means some people you will tell them once and they'll understand. Others you have to walk them through the journey.
Yeah, break it
so
down.
Hence, break it down. Hence, Hudson River and Jennifer Aniston coming together to make Jennifer Hudson. Whereas then you've got some who don't want to reconcile.
And that's what I was going to say, is at some point you also have to give yourself the freedom and the room to say, I have done my best and I cannot walk the other mile for you. I need you to meet me halfway, and I've done the best that I can to show you where the half line mark is, to communicate what the half line mark is, to put, pointers and I've done as best as I can to lead you to the halfway mark. But if you want to meet me there, that is okay.
So, I mean, based on how you started, it sounds like you and your former friend are still not friends at the moment. Or what is that like now?
So, the funny thing is, and I'll just slide into the healing chat.
No, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's just slide into the healing chat. I think healing happens in waves.
Okay.
And healing happens in stages and in layers, right? And so me and my former friend, we're not like best friends like we used to be. But we're not good with each other. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So, for example, something traumatic happened last year that affected both of us.
Okay.
And at first, someone we know. Thank you. I'm okay. Thank you. Someone we know passed away.
Okay. Sorry for your loss.
And thank you. And I knew that they were considerably closer to this person than I was.
Okay.
And I knew that while I was hurting from this situation, they were probably hurting even more because they were closer to this person. So I reached out and I said, hey, if you need anything, just let me know. And they actually reached back and they said, actually, I need you to help me pray. And for a while, leading up to this person's funeral and burial and everything, we were praying together.
Oh, wow.
I was, giving her support and walking her through that.
How did you feel? Sorry to cut you off, but how did you feel doing that?
So,
because it's easy to have been in two minds, right? It's easy to be like, okay, fine, let me help them out, and to be like, Jack, there's I go. Like, none of my business. Heal on your own. I'm also crying. Yeah.
I think it's because of what I did, like way back, when we had just had a breakup, like when the whole thing had just happened. So obviously I went through like an intense period of like grieving and like being depressed and like going through it. And there were stages and there were times when I did not want to see this person. I did not want to hear their name. I did not want to like a whiff of their perfume. I did not
Sure.
like
Like
your
that.
like that.
Yo.
Like I was, because I was really really hurt and I was really really in pain, right? And so everything about them triggered me from here
All the way
to
max.
yo.
Yeah.
So everything about them triggered me, and like it reminded me of like just how terrible I had felt, you know, in that entire situation. But then I had a stage where I said to myself, it's okay that our friendship has ended this way. What I will do is I will remember the fact that I loved this person. I was sincere in my love for this person, and I wanted to honor the fact that I loved this person. And so from here on now, that is the narrative that I will hold for myself. Even as I heal, even in moments when I don't like them, even in moments when I think they did me wrong, I will remember that I loved this person and I did the best that I could at the time for this person.
I like that because even sometimes
Yeah.
you also, I guess, would then have to understand that it's the best that you knew.
Yes, it was the best that I had.
So
at the time.
maybe if you knew earlier, for example, I don't know if you knew at the time, but for example, if you knew earlier that, oh, they've had these situations that they felt people were not genuine to them, how you'd have shown your love would have been different. But because you only knew what you knew, you can only move on what you know, right?
Yeah. And if I had known that specific things about me triggered these things about them, I also would have moved different. And that's one of the things that I felt wronged by her.
Yeah.
Was because they came to me with a conclusion that I've noticed you do A, B, C, D, and so it means A, B, C, D, and so we should stop being friends. And for me, I was like, if I had known that A, B, C, D meant that much to you.
So you think if you'd been afforded the chance to know the cracks and the things that led to the conclusion, you could have actually hopefully resolved the situation.
Because for a while I did try. And then, that was before I had realized that they had already made up their mind. So for a while I did try to be like, oh, okay, now that I know this, I will try to do better. But then I realized that no, this person has already made up their mind, and so it's pointless. But all that is to say, I spoke to my mom about it because their birthday was coming up shortly after we had just had like one of our last fights, and it was like, this is it, I'm not talking to you ever again. And their birthday was coming up, and for the last 3 years I had been the one organizing all of their birthdays, right?
Yeah. Oh wow.
So I spoke to my mom, and my mom, being the my elder that she is,
check us that danger. I'm joking.
she said, the Bible says,
amen,
if you are able, and no, what is it? What's the verse? I'm forgetting the verse, but it basically says, "Do not withhold good from someone." If you
do not withhold good from someone if you know you're in a position to do good for them.
Exactly.
I think that's in Romans or somewhere in the New Testament.
It's somewhere in the New Testament.
Let's look for it.
You can look for it. So my mom said that to me, and I was like, "Ma'am, whose side are you on?
Come on, yeah.
Your daughter is out here crying. You're telling me, huh?
Do not withhold good.
First of all, I feel like I have every right to withhold all the goodness
in the land of all the living.
In the land of all the living. But my mom said, no.
So it's Proverbs chapter 3, verse 27 to 28. Okay.
Yeah.
Please go on. Let me read it out now. But go on.
Yeah. So my mom said, she said that to me. And so what I did was I mobilized our mutual friends to do certain things. So I assigned them to do certain things. So like, I knew there was no way on earth I was contacting her sister to get like messages from their family, because I was pretty sure she'd already told her sister
there's beef here.
Yeah. Okay. So I had one of our other friends contact the sister. I had all the contacts. I gave her the contacts. I had our other friends organize like a dinner or whatever. So I had other people do it, so it would not seem like I did anything at all, and then just let them have that moment and have that thing. And so,
does she know that you did that?
I never told her, and I don't know if anyone else ever told her.
So maybe she's gonna find out now, if she's even gonna watch. So let me read it. It's Proverbs chapter 3, verse 27 to 28, right? I'm reading from the New King James Version, and it says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hand to do so." Do not say to your neighbor, go and come back, and tomorrow I will give it when you have it with you. Then, interestingly, verse 29, verse 29 then says, do not devise evil against your neighbor, for he dwells by you for safety's sake. And do not strive with a man without cause if he has done you no harm. And do not envy the oppressor and choose none of his ways. For the perverse person is an abomination to the Lord, but his secret counsel is the upright. Okay, but more so to verse 31, I guess. Do not envy the oppressor and choose none of his ways. I think it's interesting because it's easy when you feel hard done by to feel like, oh, I'm justified to feel this way. And I'm justified. I remember listening to a sermon that was preached at church once, and they said that the only person who suffers for you not forgiving is you.
Yeah. I agree.
I remember listening to that sermon. I mean, I at the time I could probably say that I had not suffered any friendship heartbreak, or I guess maybe I'd outgrown a couple people, but there was nothing like
paining you.
No pain. And I remember when I listened to that sermon, I was like, shame.
You know,
then you go through your own situation. You're like, I remember that sermon. I remember in the sermon they were like, when you forgive someone who's done you wrong, you actually have created room in your heart to let go of any envy, of any hurt, of any ill feeling. Sin is not merely lying to someone. It's not cheating someone. It's not going against someone. It's not some of the things that are laziness is a sin. We don't talk about that often enough, especially in today's culture, right? Because I know I'm guilty of that one sometimes. Envy is a sin. Things like hate itself can be a sin, because the Bible says love your neighbors, you love yourself, and it talks about how the only thing we should hate is sin, because it talks about sin as being an abomination. But even in the word, it emphasizes the fact that you should love the person and you can hate the sin.
And you can
but the two can be separate. And it talks about love your enemies. In fact, in the Bible, as far as I know now, I don't seem like I'm quoting whatever, but it talks more about praying for someone who's against you, who's not for you, than it talks about praying for your brother and sister.
So let me tell you, because
that's
God loves to do this thing with me. God loves to do this thing with me, and I just feel like I am naturally petty. I live
it's true.
for the.
It's true. No, it's true.
Mean?
No, it's true. It's true.
I live for the.
No.
It's
very much true.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Munashe is petty sometimes.
I am, but God is working on me. Yes, no. God is working on me, and so the reason why it was easier for me to pray with her when this person passed away was because for the entire time, the entire duration of like our breakup and me healing and everything, God had been teaching me how to do exactly that. How to pray for the person that I feel like misunderstood me, called me things, said things about me wrongfully. How to then pray for this person and wish them well. How to organize their birthday when I don't want to. How to hear from our mutual friends that they're doing great and say, yes, God, increase that, more of that.
And they're doing well, and you're like, Lord, I pray that you may make them increase even further. Even further.
And so I think it was easier for me to show up for them in that moment because in smaller ways, God had been teaching me and telling me to do just that. Now, I'm not trying to make myself seem like I am this holy, righteous. I've also had a fair amount of shortcomings, and part of my healing process was me recognizing this is where I genuinely did wrong, and this is what I did wrong. And there've been times when I've cussed this person out in my heart and in my chest, and there've been times where I have been less than graceful, gracious,
and righteous.
So I'm not trying to make myself seem like
you're better than.
But no. But it is to say that I think that's part of what the healing is, right? You have moments when you're like, you know what, screw you. That scene in Milan when Ed Murphy's character is like, dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor on you. You know, there's been times where
Yeah.
I'm like, just, you know what? Screw you, screw your family, screw everything about you.
Everyone and everything.
Everyone, your dog, your
Yeah.
cat.
I think what I want to add on to that is, so sorry, while you're talking, I then thought about the verse from Romans chapter 12, verse 14 to 16. I'm going to read from the Amplified because I like the little extra things that it adds sometimes to bring more context. And it says, bless those who persecute you, in brackets, who cause you harm or hardship, right? Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice, sharing others' joy, and weep with those who weep, sharing others' grief. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, conceited, self important, exclusive, but associate with humble people, those with a realistic self view. Do not overestimate yourself. I think when hurt enters, it's easy to then be exclusive. It's easy to be self important. It's easy to be conceited. It's easy for you to overestimate yourself,
Yep.
especially when you're hurt, because if you're like, no, as humans, we tend to see ourselves as perfect. And we
And as
even
the
admit that, oh
victim.
yes, I'm wrong, but it's easier to see yourself as a victim rather than the the one who's done the
Sometimes you
hurting.
have to say to yourself, no, but Muna, you are toxic.
Mm.
You know? Sometimes you have to say, no, but Muna, you were wrong.
And I think one of the best parts in this whole healing chat is when you realize that you are hurt. You know you're hurting, but you take action on your hurt.
Yeah.
So, for example, I had a situation where I went through my own thing, and I think it's very easy to be in the whole self pity chat. You know, it's very easy
Woe
to
is
be,
me.
woe is me.
Woe is
Oh,
me.
woe
And
is
you will,
all.
you
And you
know,
will woe.
and,
Why you will
and
woe?
even
Oh, my way from my way, Gani.
I'm in
And it's
pain.
like, yeah, exactly. And it's easy to be in that stage. Much like I remember, like I'm telling the sermon that took place was it's then difficult to grow beyond that.
Yeah.
And letting go is also knowing where you did wrong, but also knowing that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting.
Yeah.
And the Bible doesn't say forgive and forget.
Mm-mm.
And as people would like to tell people to forgive and forget, because it's hard to erase a memory, right?
Yeah.
But the whole thing about forgiving is being willing to say, and sometimes you need to forgive yourself.
Yes.
So you need to be able to say,
Yes.
I did wrong. And it's easy for you to be like, I did wrong, that's why this ended. But you get to a point where like, I did wrong, and I acknowledge that I did wrong. There's not much else I can do here. But also even in me doing wrong, most of the time when there are two people involved, no one is completely guilt-free.
Yeah.
Typically someone has done something.
Yeah.
One person does something bigger than the other, but there's always something involved. And it's understanding, okay, fine, maybe I played the smaller part or the bigger part. I also need to forgive myself. And I also need to forgive the other person, right? And much like this verse then says, it's bless those who persecute you. So sometimes with friendship breakups, you'll find that the other person keeps saying something wrong about you. Fortunately, I would like to believe that I haven't been in a situation where that person then speaks ill of me.
Ill of me, yeah.
But there's also situations where I'm sure maybe someone who's listening or who's watching, you've had situations where someone has spoken ill of you and continues to speak ill of you.
Yeah.
What I maybe can encourage, and I know it's easier said than done, is also once you've forgiven, also pray for the best for them. And I know it's a very nice Christian-y thing to say,
Very
Christianese.
nice Christian
It's hard
bow
to pray
on
and
the
say,
top.
God, may they
Yeah.
prosper even without me.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
no.
Because as people, again, we like to feel like
I want
people do
them
well
to
because of
also
us.
cry.
I also want them to go through what I
want them
went
to
through.
Feel the gap.
Exactly. And they must know that I was important. It was me.
You know,
Me.
like when I was refusing to organize their birthday,
Yeah.
like they must feel that now there's no one.
They must sit and eat bread
by
with peanut butter
themselves.
on their own for their birthday. But sorry,
yeah,
I was just gonna say, I think the thing about forgiving someone else is it lifts the weight off your shoulder.
Yeah.
And when you say sorry, if the other person doesn't then take your apology, it's on them. Now I don't know if it's in scripture or not, but I truly believe that then the guilt of, or the weight of the guilt of whatever it is, of the offense rather, ends up being on them. Because you've let go.
Yeah.
But they're the ones who are still walking around, Ningy did this to me, Ningy did this to me. Yet for you, you've let it go. And like you said, it comes in waves. You have moments of that's cool, then I cast that person.
Mm.
And no, it's okay. And but the whole thing is it's a journey, it's a process.
Yeah.
But the most important thing I would say is one, pray for the other person and pray for yourself. But you find that the reason why the Bible most of the time tells you to pray for other people, yes, it tells you to pray for yourself, but a lot of times it tells you for other people, for other things, is because when you pray, I genuinely believe that when you take care of the things of God and God's people, He takes care of you.
Yeah.
Right? And with that being said, even when someone does you wrong, when you pray for their things, God also sees where you're coming from. He knows you're hurt. He knows you crying or you lamenting over woeing is me. He sees that and he knows that.
Yeah.
So when you're able to pray for the other person, it then also helps you to advance and to move forward. And you'll find when they do well, it's easier for you to be like, I'm glad they're doing well.
Yeah. And and also on that note of praying for other people, I don't know if it's just me, but I think whenever God wants to bring something out of me, something He doesn't like about me, something He wants me to pay attention to, He usually does that by asking me to pray for someone else or by giving me dreams about that person. So now I have to pray for them.
Yeah.
Or now I have to talk to them. And I think it's because, just going back to the chat about, when something like a breakup happens, it's easy for you to feel like, no, but they did me wrong. This is unfair, whatever. But what I love about God is He loves us all, and He will correct us all.
That's true.
Even when you're hurting and you feel like, no, but I am the justified one in this situation. Even with this breakup that I'm talking about, God had so many moments where He said to me, pray for this person. And as I prayed for them, I realized, I have something in my heart that isn't good. That doesn't make me the person that I want to be. And then it's tough to have to deal with that because you want to see yourself as a good person. You want to see yourself.
Everyone wants to see themselves as a good person,
And even the self-critical ones, the self-deprecating ones. I know this because I am overly self-critical. And people have said that to me, like, Munashe, you're too critical of yourself. But I think a part of being self-critical is a shield because you actually think you're a good person. And you actually think that you're doing good, so you think you're in a good position.
Because you're always analyzing.
Yes. So you think, because I usually tell myself when I've done wrong, then I'm a
fine.
better person. And or like
I
good.
think one of the most dangerous moments is when you feel like you are maybe not perfect, but close to perfect.
Yeah.
Because no one's close to perfect.
Or that you are, or you have the best formula for being a good person. Because I'm always checking myself. I'm the first one to correct myself. I'm the first
I sit down with myself at the end of every day and reflect I meditate and I make sure that and I think it's easy. And as much as all those things are good, I think it's always good to something that I started doing and that I do every now and again is you then sit down with someone else and you're like, what do you think about me? And they're like, oh yeah, no, I don't know the good things.
Thanks.
Tell me, what are some of the bad things about me? Actually, I think the tone you use when you talk to people regarding 1, 2, 3 things can come off as judgmental. And literally it's like,
I know. Because you think you're doing a good job.
And you're like, what? I thought I was working on that.
Yourself.
Not even, you knew it, but you're like, I thought I was working on it. And they're like,
I
no.
I was better. And they're like,
You've actually gotten worse. And you're like, my way. Oh my God. But I think that's part of what then comes about heartbreak is that I think it's always good to see, especially friendship heartbreak and heartache as an opportunity to learn and grow. I can definitely say that, and sometimes it can be for the better. And I know that sounds weird, but I can definitely say that in the midst of the hurt and the pain, you can also experience happiness and even joy because in the word, and I really love the scripture, but Romans 8 verse 28 says, for all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose, right? Which means even the bad things, whether if they were supposed to happen or not, and even the bad things which were allowed to happen, right? Can still help you out. Yeah. So even if you're the one who's done the wrong, or if you've been wronged, you can still benefit from that situation. It's just out of like how you look at it, right?
And if you choose to lean into
the growth.
Because it's difficult.
And when I say it can be a good thing, I'm not saying like, oh, go and break up with all your friends now and say I'm gonna grow. No.
No.
But when I say it's a good thing, it can be a moment of reflection.
Yeah.
Seeing where you're doing well, where you're not. Being able to see your, like I said, even seeing that you're doing well, you're like, actually, no, this person was violent. I'm good at that. You know? And other moments you're like, hey, and but you didn't know.
Yeah.
And then other moments you're like, hey, actually, I know I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Yeah.
But you need those moments to happen. And I think a good and bad thing about friendship breakups is either the dynamic changes and it's not the same, or it becomes better than before.
Yeah.
That too can also happen.
I've actually had a friendship breakup where we grew apart, but I felt like they hadn't been there for me enough. So I felt like we grew apart, not because it was just like a natural growing apart, because I felt distant from them, right? And so for years, like that was just that, and I let them go. I let the situation go, but then we became friends again, and now obviously we're not best friends or anything, but now we understand and can support each other in a more genuine and like.
And sometimes you look back and you're like, if
way.
it had just continued, we wouldn't be where we are now.
No, we would have been shallow friends or friends that are disingenuous with each other. But now we're there for each other in ways, and even I think also that that separation helped me to see like, okay, maybe I was being a bit much, you know, or
I should have toned it down.
Yeah, like I should have just like it wasn't that deep.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, or it's like no. For real, I had valid concerns, but it's fine. Now I've learned. Now I'm older. I learned that, you know, sometimes people are going through things. Because sometimes, and I've learned this with all of like the different friendships that I've been in, is that no one is ever 100% wrong.
Yeah.
And I say this because even the bad things that we look at and say, Marco did this to me. Marco called me at 8:05 when he had promised he would call me at 8, and he does this every single time. And yes, for me it's like Marco's an inconsistent friend, and that really hurts me, right? But when you take the time to really look at Marco's life and you really find out what is happening in Marco's life, it's very rare in my experience. I mean, you have people that are just malicious and just like spawns of Satan, and you know, but for the most part, for most people, it's not that they're 100% just pure evil intention and just doing you wrong, you know? And you learn this as you see more people, as you have more friendships, as you grow as a person. You see that sometimes the things that really, really hurt us that other people do, it's not because they're 100% just bad people. A lot of it is the way that we see life, the way we walk through life, but also understand that they have things that they're going through that make them the way that they are.
Yeah.
That affect the way that they manifest and express themselves in friendships.
And I think that's where the whole forgiveness part comes in.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need to have a reason to forgive.
No.
I know that might be a tough one.
So good.
You don't need to have a reason to forgive. You forgive because Christ forgave us. There's no other condition for forgiving in the word. Have you seen that?
That is hard. But that
forgive
is
us
so
as
good.
you forgive as we forgive those who trespass against us. It doesn't say those who trespass against us and whatever, or and have improved, or have corrected themselves. It just says we forgive those who've gone. No, because some will never admit that they did wrong.
And they will even say you are lying.
In fact, they will double down.
10 toes.
Go. In there. Exactly. But I think that's also another important thing is that forgiveness is more about one thing I've been learning about relationships in general is that it's more about you and God. And if you know that the way you're carrying yourself in a friendship is glorifying God, then it's okay. Even if you wrong someone and you tell them that you're sorry, ask for forgiveness. If they don't, as long as you and God are on the right path, because God has asked you to forgive. And you don't forgive because God said I should forgive. It's also from a genuine place, right? But also the thing about repentance and forgiveness and stuff is it's also not going back and doing the same thing. So if you're the perpetrator, one thing I'd really just encourage is have a repentant heart. Even I know a lot of time talk about repentance in the context of sin, you and God and sin, but also in
the way you treat
your all relationships with your parents, with your cousins, with your friends.
With
I know
yourself.
with yourself, because I know it's very difficult to have situations where, you know, your parent did wrong against you or against your other parent, or you did wrong against your friend or whatever, or someone else wronged you or you feel wronged. It's very difficult to let go because it's easy to feel like, yeah, but I've got the right to.
Yeah.
And merely because you've got the right to doesn't mean you should. All things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial. So it's not
Absolutely.
beneficial to hold hurt
Yeah.
or a grudge or to hold things.
And I
Yeah.
think just to close that off, that in like really nicely, I think a good thing to remember is no one is asking you for perfection. No one is
Never.
asking you to be a perfect friend, daughter, sister.
In fact, I feel like
whatever.
if you're asked to be perfect, that is wrong.
That is wrong, and cut that person off.
But the goal is
But
to
the
be
goal
as
is to be
close to.
I feel like for me, it's not even like to be as close to perfection. I think that is a natural consequence of what I think the goal is. The goal is to strive to be consistently better. So the friend that I was last year, or the friend that I
Should
that
be
I
better
was,
than the one before.
should be better than the one before. The friend that I am today should be better than the one that I was yesterday.
And the good things about friendships and the bad things should also grow you to
Yeah.
be a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think how I see it is the one and only truly perfect person was Jesus, right? And if we're striving to be like him, we're striving for perfection, but not in our own capacity, but in the capacity of God. So the more that we become Christ-like, the better we can be friends, the better we can be brothers and sisters, we can be fathers and mothers and cousins and nieces and employees and nephews and the whole 9 yards, because we are striving for perfection. But striving for perfection shouldn't be in our own will, but in the might of Christ, right? And I think, like you're saying, if we're constantly aiming to be better, that's the whole thing. I think one thing that God always likes is a heart that is truly trying.
Yeah.
And not trying in your own will, but like I said, sorry for the Holy Spirit to help us, for God to help us.
Yeah.
Because as a human, the instinct is cast that person.
Yeah.
The instinct is I don't need them. The instinct is this. But the more that you grow, the more that you learn that in the word it talks about needing community. You do need everyone, and everyone has a role to play.
Yeah.
And the sooner that I think we all grow and realize those things. Sometimes it's easier to realize something in a moment and not another moment. And being able to pray. I think, do you have any closing remarks that you want to say? Anything you want to,
I think for me, my biggest takeaway when it comes to friendships and relationships and like breakups and healing and growth, I think the biggest takeaway that I have is that at some point you're going to be the one who's hurting someone, and at some point you're going to be the one who's receiving hurt. What matters is how you navigate that and how you confront that. And I've taken a policy now in my life where I will do my best to communicate how I feel prior to making any decision, and I will do my best to receive any feedback that I get.
that's good.
Without trying to justify it, because I used to have a habit of like, no, but I didn't mean that, and like, no, yeah, like I can see why that would hurt you, but that wasn't what I meant. And for me, it's learning that while my intentions do matter, at the end of the day, I need to be able to come to a point where I acknowledge the
My
effect.
actions were not there as well.
The effect that my actions have had, even if I didn't mean for that to be the case.
I think you and I are quite similar in that I tend to be an intentions-driven person. So sometimes I actually make excuse for other people's actions. Even for other people's actions. I'm like, no, but they didn't mean it.
Let's not start that one.
That's
That's
a
a
whole
whole other
That's a whole other chat.
podcast.
But even but even with that, you know, what I then find is, even being someone who tends to lean on intentions over actions, actions have a weight that they carry as well. And other people are more action oriented as well. And I think it's understanding where people come from, but that also means that you hold yourself to a higher standard where you say, okay, my intentions are here, but are my actions meeting? And those are things that, they matter. I think also, just as a closing remark as well, is what I will say is, as difficult as it is, forgive, one, but two, and two, pray for the situation. Right? Because you never know what God wants you to learn from the whole situation. and everything can be for his good. And I'd also say have an open heart to seeing what God wants you to do with regards to that relationship. Because maybe in your outgrowing of each other, you are growing at a faster rate so you can help them grow.
Yeah.
But for the next year, you need to grow without them.
Yeah.
So that you can go back and get them, right?
Yeah. And when he tells you to go back and get them,
you go
get
back
them.
and get them. And sometimes he's allowed them to go ahead of you so they can come get you. And when they come get you, receive them and let them get you, right?
Yeah.
But also even in if you never talk again or you're never the same again, it's understanding that these things do happen and understanding, okay, yes, understand your role, but I think one of the biggest things that I've learned in all of this, in any heartbreak, is God is the only one who really heals the heart. Like they say, time heals all wounds. Not really. I think it can help you cope.
Yeah.
But doesn't bring about the healing. So the healing comes from God. And the same way that you pray for healing for your physical self, I believe God can bring about healing for the heart. We hear in many instances in the Word where, you hear that David was really sad when his best friend died. You hear that this person was sad when a companion or someone close to them passes away.
Yeah.
Or they're no longer together. And breakups happen in the Bible even. If I'm correct, Paul and was it Peter and Silas or Paul? Paul and Peter
had a falling out.
Then they went separate ways, and you went with Silas, and someone else went with Timothy, I think, or something along those lines. Not Timothy, but someone else.
They had a. They had
it was in the book of Acts, I know, because I read it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But they had a falling out, and even in their falling out, they still worked together to advance the kingdom. So what it looked like was different, but they still had to, So falling outs do happen, but I think it's more about how you go forward from the falling out. So don't wallow in self-pity. Don't wallow in I did wrong. Also don't wallow in I was wrong.
Yeah.
Wronged, but I would then say that acknowledge the pain. If you need therapy, go for therapy.
Go for therapy, please.
She's a big advocate for therapy.
I am a huge advocate. Please.
Go to the gym, work
Not
out.
more than 5 times a week.
And then pray. I think the honest truth is, and have conversation. I know, like, when I had a falling out with a friend, being able to talk about certain things really helped clear your mind and help you understand where the other person's coming from.
Yeah.
And also helps you understand your own thought process better as well. So I'd say those things. Communicate and pray. Praying is communication with God. So just communicate, pray and talk. And on that very somber, sober note, this has been the Middle of Podcast. And I know, like it's sort of now it's like really mellowed down. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're on YouTube, again, like, comment, share, subscribe. I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on this episode, especially. Let's keep the conversation going. In the comment section. Feel free to message me on Instagram as well if you want to talk about some of these things. And also, thank you very much, Munashe, for coming through.
You're most welcome. And hit that notification button.
Come on, bell notification so you know.
So you don't miss anything.
Come on, purr. And please do make sure to follow at T-Middle Podcast on Instagram and on Facebook. And also follow me at Marco_Cads on Instagram. Otherwise, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure as we're drawing to the conclusion of our relationship series. And thank you, Munashe, for flying all the way from Stanford just for this episode. Okay, fine. Thank you for flying all the way from the States just to record this episode.
Just for this.
Because that's all you traveled for, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
See you.